Welcome and thank you for tuning in. You're listening to the Beyond 50 radio program. I'm Daniel Davis. As many of you have followed our program over the years, you realize that when it comes to healing, we try to find natural and holistic innovative approaches that typically aren't on the radar of most people. One of those we've tackled consistently over and over again is, of course, cancer. Many people are going for the run for the cure, the walk for the cure. Millions and millions and millions of dollars have been raised, but still cancer research isn't any further along than it was 30 or even 50 years ago. The interesting thing is most of these people are wandering around thinking they're trying to find a cure for cancer when in fact that cure was found back in the early part of the 1900s. Many times on the program, we've welcomed back a wonderful guest who's talked with us about how we can not only beat cancer, but probably prevent from getting it in the first place. His first book was The Hidden Story of Cancer, where we explored a lot of the myths that surround this dreadful disease and how you can go about taking care of business to be sure that you don't get it, or at least reverse it if you do. His newest book is The PEO Solution with Parental Essential Oils, and he's going to be talking with us today about this very book. It's Conquering Cancer, Diabetes, and Heart Disease with Parent Essential Oils. I'd like to welcome to the Beyond 50 radio program our guest again, Professor Brian Peskin. Professor Peskin, how are you? Now, tell us about this book. This here is certainly going to be one of those that are going to be knocking some walls down here, just like The Hidden Story of Cancer did.
Yeah. Well, this one is written with my co-author, Dr. Robert Rowan, who is an internationally known oxidative medicine physician, and so the audience will know him from Second Opinion, which is a huge medical newsletter.
Mm-hmm.
So what's really, really exciting is our charter, Daniel, is to give physicians the 21st century medical science they likely haven't seen before. So a physician is not responsible if he's not aware of an experiment, for example, showing the amounts of DHA, EPA used in the brain. If he's living outdated in the 20th century, not the 21st, he's not responsible for not giving his patients state-of-the-art medical science. So this is our charter, and the physicians involved in this, you've read the accolades. Mm-hmm. There's nothing like them. The physicians are so thankful that they're getting this information. And these oils, parent essential oils, not fish oil, we'll talk a lot about that, virtual, complete prevention of heart disease, cancer, and a big inroad into even diabetes. So it's very, very exciting.
Now let's talk about what these oils are. Where can they be found?
Yeah, these are plant-based oils. From flaxseed has more of the parent omega-3 series. Sunflower, safflower, evening primrose oil has more of the parent omega-6. Now what parent means is your body cannot make these. So there's only two flavors. Parent omega-6, which is very, very important, 11 times more of that in the body than parent omega-3, and just very critical. Now, your body cannot make either one of these, so they must come from food. The parents make derivatives, the offspring. So fish oils, EPA, DHA, for example, come from the parent. So if a patient has the parent oils, they make the derivative oils. However, if you give derivatives like fish oil, which in the recommended dosages, Daniel, are suprapharmacologic overdoses of what your body would ever need, we'll talk about that more, they can't make the parents. So it's a one-way conversion, and everybody is looking at the offspring, the derivatives. I was the scientist focusing on the parents, and Dr. Rowan couldn't believe the science I was giving him. It actually took him 5 years of vetting my work before he came on board. And Dr. Rowan is known as the father of medical freedom for instigating and starting in Alaska the first integrative medicine law where a physician is allowed to give any therapy, any intervention, even if it's not a certified drug. So they can give natural means. So the whole country needs to thank Dr. Rowan, and for him to be a co-author and a major colleague is incredible. So physicians and patients can rest assured Dr. Rowan spent 5 years vetting my work before he's on board. plant-based oils, the parent omega-6, parent omega-3, in the right ratio of much more 6 than 3 is what's needed, not fish oil. And even last week, I'm getting emails from all over the world, a big study came out of the UK, fish oil failed again. Didn't stop cancer, didn't stop heart disease, doesn't stop macular degeneration, doesn't stop Alzheimer's. People need to wake up and start looking at this going, wait a minute. Everything is coming out, it's a failure. Why did it act like it was a success in the beginning? And the reason, Daniel, is poor science. Studies aren't science. So I use a study to confirm the physiology, the biochemistry. Most physicians think, 10 say it works, 5 say it doesn't work, 10 minus 5 is 5, we win. Absolutely not. Most studies are not worth the paper they're printed on. And this isn't me saying this. This is Dr. Dianidis out of Stanford, MD, PhD, that wrote a major paper in statistics and probability proving why most studies are wrong. You can't believe the headline.
It's pretty interesting how we tend to chase those very things, though, headlines, or as we have an expert on television coming on one of those talk shows during the daytime, with some sort of credibility telling us this is the direction we need to go. But even I, having worked in media for as long as I have, I tend to tell people, you're not really hearing any real evidence. What you're hearing is ambiguity that they're hoping you'll turn into evidence through your thinking.
Absolutely.
But people
correct.
don't usually take it much past the surface level and then become disappointed by the results.
There's a reason for that. It's because the average American is so sick, so exhausted, and now so fat and overweight and lethargic, they want a solution, any solution. And this is why I'm so passionate, because you're absolutely right. Most of these people yakking don't have any science whatsoever. So I tell everybody, don't believe anybody. I don't even want your audience believing me. I want them going, this guy sounds very irrefutable and unequivocal. He doesn't shake. I need to look at this. And then we give you the science so you can look it up yourself, and we give you the quotes. You've read the book, the review copy. It's out now, but you got it when it first came out in January. So it's very, very new. We give you the actual quote and the actual reference so you can look it up, but you see what the author of the article said, what the science stated, and if it's technical, and a lot of it is, I will give you an explanation of what it means, but we always give you their wording so you don't have to rely on someone making up a headline, making up a conclusion. But everybody needs physiology, biochemistry, the science.
Now, in your book, as you outline, of course, the science, and you do it in great detail, there's no doubt about that.
But it's understandable for the average person. That's what we're so happy with. We spend a lot of money and a lot of time with nonfiction editors to make sure a person, even high school education, can understand it.
Let's talk about the 10 inconvenient truths about fish oil. Since that's always the big one you're always hearing, make sure you get your fish oil or it can be found in fish, but why that just isn't working too well.
I'm about solving problems, not explaining why something doesn't work. Mm-hmm. So I want everybody to know I did not come to this against fish oil off the block. I started with the science of what works, and that's the parent essential oils. Well, if I give you what works, I have to also tell you and prove what doesn't work. And what doesn't work is the fish oil. So I only came to fish oil being problematic because it doesn't have any of the parents. There are no parent oils, PEOs, in fish oil at all. It is 100% derivatives, Daniel, and the body makes very little. So anybody taking fish oil, I want you to look when we're done with the show on the bottle and see how many milligrams of DHA is in it. Also EPA, because they're interconvertible. This is one that can go either way. So EPA can go back to DHA, and DHA can go back to EPA. 21st century positron emission testing tagged with radioisotopes. Okay? How much is going into the brain? 7.2 milligrams. So all anybody needs a day is about 10 milligrams total. For the brain, the nervous system, The eyes, that's it, 10 milligrams. Take a look and see how many milligrams of DHA EPA you are taking, and you are going to have a heart attack looking at it because it is an overdose by 20 to 500 times. So it's a big problem. Now, in 2013, Dr. Topol, Eric Topol, he is top cardiologist, head of the heart.org, which is a big internet newsletter for cardiologists, and the editor-in-chief of Medscape, said fish oil is a no-go. It didn't work stopping existing heart disease, reversing it, or preventing it. So this is the top editor-in-chief of Medscape and the heart.org saying don't do it. That was number one. What it does is fish oil increases platelet adhesion of your artery linings, called the endothelial wall of the intima. So if anybody has existing occlusions, build up a plaque in the artery, fish oil makes it worse. The cardiologists I tell, their mouth drops. The third one is in 2010, completely worthless in helping Alzheimer's victims. This was even in people with low DHA, Daniel. So here's a group that if the darn stuff could possibly work, it would have to work in. I have low DHA, take the DHA, how come my Alzheimer's isn't helped? Because it won't help it, it doesn't matter. Fish oil increases the risk of colon cancer. This came out in 2010. The researcher mouth dropped. They thought they were going to help the mice decrease the cancer. It went through the roof by a factor of about 10 times, making it very aggressive. And then in their findings, they actually said the findings support a growing body of literature implicating harmful effects of high-dose fish oil. They actually said it. The other thing is everybody's petrified of becoming diabetic because it's the number one epidemic in America, Daniel, today. Mm-hmm. Diabetes. Fish oil makes your blood sugars worse. It does two things. It raises the resting blood sugar level, and it blunts the insulin response, which means your pancreas has to spit out more insulin to get the same effect. Now, when you're putting that kind of stress on the pancreas, guess what you're headed for? Type 1 diabetes. Your pancreas won't work at all. Mm-hmm. Unbelievable. This is the biggest epidemic in America, and fish oil makes it worse. Everybody's talking anti-aging. Anti-aging starts in the mitochondria. Mitochondria are your body's power plants. Guess what? Fish oil negatively impacts mitochondrial functionality. Why? Because the oils in the mitochondria, it's called cardiolipin, it's all parent omega-6. There's no parent omega-3 even, and there's no fish oil. Now what happens when you're taking these overdoses of fish oil every day, your body can't just burn them up. A lot of people say, okay, who cares? Body's just going to use it for energy. No. It has to shove it into tissue it doesn't belong in. So if you care about living well and having energy and anti-aging, put the fish oil in the garbage. It actually accelerates aging. And here was the quote on that one. Conclusion, the findings suggest intake of fish. They always use the word suggest because they always want to equivocate so you can never say they're wrong. But it did this. Increase oxidative stress, which means it's going rancid in the body, decreases cellular function and causes organ dysfunction. Cellular function is decreased. It increases oxidative stress, and it causes organ dysfunction. How on earth can a doctor possibly recommend fish oil given this? 2002, it was shown it did not stop atherosclerosis in patients with existing arterial disease. Harvard University, 2 years they looked at patients with this. Didn't work at all. Continues to fail. Incredible. Here's a big one. 1996 or 1997, women taking the most fish oil, 3 times risk of melanoma, which is the most deadliest skin cancer there is. Why? Because there's no fish oil in your skin. It's all parent omega-6. What did I just tell you? If you take the dosages that are recommended, that they're telling everybody to take, patients all around the world, you're getting an overdose, and your body puts it anywhere it can to get rid of it. Goes into the skin, boom, skin cancer. Here's a real bad one. This came out in 2011, made big medical news. It adversely affects chemotherapy. So if anybody is getting treated for cancer with chemotherapy, the fish oil makes the chemo drugs ineffective. There is the only place fish oil has a potential place for helping someone is to lower your immune system, which is acting like a steroid. So I always used to lecture. I still lecture a fair amount, but I would always get the dermatologist in the audience going, Professor Peskin, I can tell you in certain patients the fish oil helps their psoriasis. And I would say, I'm not sure why. Then a doctor emailed me and said, don't you remember? It's in your writing, because I do a lot of journal articles. Fish oil lowers your immune system. That's like taking a steroid. Now, the parent essential oils typically work better than the fish oil for even a patient with skin problems, because parent omega-6 makes up the skin. The point is, no doctor in the world would tell a patient to prophylactically take fish oil, which means you have no physical problems, take fish oil, take a steroid every day. No doctor would tell any patient to take a steroid every day for no reason, because they ruin everything. They're awful, 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 awful as a steroid. Ask any physician, do I want to take one for a year prophylactically to look like you? They'll put you in the insane asylum because they're so damaging. So fish oil is a poison, Daniel. And in spite of this, it's the number one supplement in America. So I hope people will check out this book. There's a website. It's called PEO for Parent Essential Oil -solution.com. PEO-solution.com. There's a sample chapter there, which is the effects on beauty, because so many people care about beauty. And it gets very scientific because it gets into why the skin becomes so phenomenally soft, why the hill valleys and fingernails are gone, and why cellulite is gone, and how you can protect yourself from getting skin cancer. So it sounds just kind of like a fun topic because everybody wants to look more beautiful, especially the women, but it is very scientific. And also, unlike any other book ever done in America, I don't know about the rest of the world, but in America, probably anywhere else, anywhere, we give you huge scientific support on the internet. So anybody can check all that for free. So if they go to PEO-solution.com and, for example, click on Chapter 7, that's the fish oil one, you'll see all the articles with all of our comments on why this stuff is so bad. And it's not studies. It is science. Fish oil goes rancid instantly, Daniel, in the body. So I don't care how much antioxidants you put in the capsule to stop it from going bad, it goes rancid, which is like rusting, instantly at room temperature, which is 72 degrees. Imagine what happens when it hits 98.6 in the body. There's no amount of antioxidants that can fix it. Now, they did a study in monkeys, an experiment. They gave monkeys this stuff, and it caused, called lipofuscin, the age spots, the brown age spots that you get on your hands. Well, those are from rancid oils. People don't know that, but that's what it is. That's from the parent omega-6 going bad. And that would happen in the liver and the organs. When they did the biopsies on these poor monkeys, there was premature aging on the organs. And their comment was, you can't take enough antioxidants to stop this. So what happens is anybody taking these overdoses of fish oil, all of your body's antioxidants come from where you're supposed to be protecting the organ to a different one where the problem is, and then they leave an area unprotected, and that's where the cancer comes in. So it's just an absolute tragedy. Fish oil is 320 times more prone to oxidation, meaning becoming rancid, than olive oil. 300 times worse, not 3, not 30, 300. That's like saying I have a penny and you have 300 pennies. You're 300 times faster to rust. Would you want to be taking that knowing this? And it doesn't even work. Those are all the negative effects. It doesn't work positively. 2013, 2014 were awful, awful years. In the beginning, because researchers are like the rest of us, they want to give people hope. So you get a study done, and they jump the gun. They don't use good statistics. It's a real tragedy because most of the studies published, Daniel, aren't worth the paper they're printed on. I was lucky. I went to MIT, a very good engineering school, Cambridge, Massachusetts, one of the best in the world. And my thesis advisor told me very early on, because I came up with a different result than somebody else did that was published in a journal, and I'm thinking, man, I'm in trouble. He started laughing and said 95% of what's in the journals is wrong. I fell off my chair. I was a young kid, in his 20s. And this is the way it is. There are hundreds and hundreds of papers published every week. Garbage. Mm-hmm. It's a tragedy. So the patient doesn't know what to do, and it's so bad, Daniel, even the physicians don't believe their own journals. So what do? The minute they say, like fish oil, and 10 articles come out saying it's no good, they just discount them. Mm-hmm. They don't even want to hear it. And that's why I say the study has to verify the science, not be counter to it, not be opposite to it. So all of the science is very unequivocal. It is very straightforward, and that's where I live, in the science, and I follow the science. I don't have a preconceived notion where I start. I let the science show me where I need to go, and I'm right. And Dr. Rowan, after 5 years, he goes, yeah, you are right. They are all wrong. Now, they're not all wrong, but you don't typically hear about people. I have a very big presence on the Internet. I have a very big presence in the medical field because my science is so good. And I don't vary. I stay in this one thing, Daniel. For 15 years, I've been in the EFA area, the oils. I don't jump around. Now, I see how those oils pertain to something else, but most people in medical research and academia are just popping all around. They publish hundreds of papers. Most go nowhere. They lead nowhere, but it doesn't matter. All they care about is, I got 300 papers, brilliant. Well, my comment is, how many did Einstein do? 3. How many did Feynman do? 5. Anybody with 300, 400, 500 papers, I'd be embarrassed because they don't lead anywhere. So what disease did you prevent? What did you do? Nothing. They just publish for the sake of publishing. And that's a real problem. That's why in PEO Solution, for the second 2 chapters are in probability and statistics and studies. And we tell physicians, this book is written for physicians, but it gives patients the inside track on what the world's leading physicians are learning. And you've seen the accolades from around the world, from India, saying we've revolutionized their understanding of VFAs, Latin America, Italy, England. I mean, all over the world, this work is being integrated, and the results are the same. So it doesn't matter how sick anybody is or what they have. It works. And the Iowa experiment was the big one in 2010, conclusively showing these oils increase flexibility of the artery. Fish oil made it harder. So fish oil made patients about 4.5 years prematurely aged with hardening of the arteries compared to nothing. So when we gave fish oil people, told them to stop it, take the parent essential oils, 11 years younger. And you could look at scans of 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds, 40-year-olds, and see how their arterial flexibility is. There's a new way to measure it now without a biopsy that's really, really neat electronically, and it's unbelievable. So this book looks at all the disciplines and tells patients and the physicians how these oils help their specialties. Very, very exciting. What's the biggest thing in the book that got your attention? What shocked you the most?
Well, there was and I know we talked about this before because this is another thing that you hear quite a bit about, if it's on television or on the radio, is fiber. Fiber's been shown to, prevent these things, dietary fiber. But, you take a look at this and you kind of wonder, well, I like my vegetables, so what do you do here?
Well, you can have the fiber from vegetables, but you don't want extra fiber from any supplement. The most fiber eaters got the most colon cancer. That was 1999 in New England Journal of Medicine and Lancet, the world's premier medical journal, 1999 and 2000. What is the American Cancer Society back to doing? Telling you need fiber. It's unbelievable. I look at this going, this is why the medical field, Daniel, gets nowhere. They're on a merry-go-round. 20 years later, they come up with the same thing they had 20 years ago, the opposite. Coffee's bad, don't take it, now it's good. Chocolate's bad, now it's good. Sugar didn't cause diabetes, now it does. All they do is reverse themselves. Don't take any salt, it's awful. Now it's low salt, people have more heart disease. It never ends because there's no science. That's very true, by the way.
No, I know it is. It's funny you say that because it's like they say it this year, but then all of a sudden it's good. Then all of a sudden it's bad. Then all of a sudden it's good.
Nobody knows what to believe. The average patient believes nothing, and the physicians believe nothing either. It's an impossible job trying to bring the world's state-of-the-art medical science. But the physicians that I get typically come to me because they see my medical journal articles, and I had one major one this year. It was in Journal of Lipids, called Why Fish Oil Fails, a comprehensive 21st century lipids-based physiologic analysis. And it's about 15 pages, and I go through and give the science of why this stuff is so bad. Another one came out that fish oil, men taking the most fish oil had the most prostate cancer. Did you see that one?
Mm-hmm.
Physicians went nuts with that. I wrote an article telling why that was absolutely correct and why it would be predicted, and the article even said it was worse than trans fats. Everybody knows how bad trans fats are. They are bad. The fish oil was even worse. So guys, if you don't want to have a prostate problem, take that fish oil and either return it or put it in the trash where it belongs. But that was one of them, why fish oil fails. And the main reviewer was a professor of lipid oxidation. He's a professor of biochemistry, and his specialty is lipid oxidation. You can imagine how hard it was getting this published, because it's very hard getting a negative article, meaning something fails. They don't want to hear that. People want to hear how successful something is, because nobody likes downers. 2013, I did another major one, why fish oil fails to prevent or improve CVD, cardiovascular disease. Again, a 21st century analysis. So my work is published in peer-reviewed journals where they try and show you're wrong if they can, because they don't like publishing negatives. And I win every time because my science is irrefutable.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, is 2 and 2 4? Well, you can say it's 6, and Lori over there can say it's 8, and Jim can say it's 22. It's 4. I don't care what the heck you say. And this is why people need to start demanding science. Mm-hmm. Not the person, not the nice talking guy, the good-looking girl, science. And my motto is science, not opinion. But you're right, if fiber completely reverses, and in the book I talk about where that started. It was an Irish physician who wrongly went to Africa and saw a group of people that had not a lot of cancer in the colon cancer, and just wrongly guessed it must be because of the fiber. He guessed. And he said he guessed. And this is just incredible. How do you put something out there that's a guess, and now you know how many people he's given colon cancer to? It's unbelievable. Irish guy. Best of intentions. Good job. Science, not opinion, Daniel.
Now, the other thing, too, that you hear a lot of is you hear a lot of trans fat and things like cooking oil that can cause a lot of problems here.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Sure. Trans fat is basically, it's the molecular structure is changed where it goes into the cell. Oh, back to parent essential oils. You have 100 trillion cells. 100 trillion. Every one of these cells have what's called a bilipid membrane. So it's 2 circles of fat. 25% to 33% of this fat are PEOs. There's virtually no DHA, EPA in there. Okay? So it is all PEOs. And the ratio, if you look at all the tissues and the organs, which I did, it's 11 to 1 in favor of parent omega-6. So everybody says, oh, we're getting overdosed with omega-6, we're getting overdosed. No, you're not. You need 11 times more. However, what you are getting overdosed on is adulterated parent omega-6. And the reason they do this is because all the cooking oils are omega-6 based. The omega-3 oils, like flax, turn rancid too fast when you give them a little heat, because the more double bonds they have, the longer chain they are, the less heat they can take. That's why they get frozen in the refrigerator so fast. You put olive oil in the refrigerator, it's going to turn solid. You put flax oil, it's going to get solid. You put omega-6 oil like evening primrose oil, sunflower oil, safflower oil, if it's high omega-6 content the way they used to do, but now they change a lot of these oils, it won't turn solid, it'll stay fluid. So it's 11 to 1 you need, but the adulterated oil we're getting today is everywhere. And that's because the oil has to stay good for a long time. It can't smell and it can't go bad. So in all the restaurants, the fast food restaurants, and even the best high white tablecloth restaurants are still using adulterated oils. They don't know the science. So everybody eating fried foods, baked foods, supermarket foods, unless it's made with organic oils, they're getting adulterated oils, and the trans fats make the oils last longer. Now, there's new laws coming out. They're trying to say zero trans fats. You've heard of that, right, New York?
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's asked what the heck you're replacing it with. The minute that came out, I told a colleague, oh, no, what's going to come out as the replacement will be worse. He goes, how the heck do you know that? I said, because you don't understand. What they originally changed was the right stuff. A saturated fat is what you want to use to cook with because it can't alter itself. So coconut oil was beautiful. Palm oil is beautiful. This is what they used to cook popcorn in till the Canadian oil producers got down here and had us change to canola oil, which is an adulterated oil, and causing heart disease and cancer, and not very good. So you can't have saturated fat anymore, which is the right stuff. So what's left? Well, it's called an interesterified fat, and that, guess what, raises resting blood glucose levels. This is published. Again, diabetes is the #1 epidemic in America, and everything these people are doing exacerbates it, makes it worse, because they don't know any science. And it just came out, the saturated fat, this is nothing new either, is not an issue. I ask all the cardiologists I come across, how much saturated fat's in a clogged artery? I said, because I know the answer down to a 0.1%. What is it? And they just look at me. They don't have a clue.
Mm-hmm.
None. Zero. There's no saturated fat in a clogged artery. So anybody telling you don't eat the bacon, don't eat the cheese, don't eat the butter, don't eat the eggs, needs to get their tail into a medical physiology library and learn some science before they open their mouths. This was, again, published, Lancet. High-resolution chromatography, very, very easy to do the analysis. Wouldn't you think these guys would know this? So here's what I tell people. If a board-certified interventional cardiologist doesn't even know what's giving you a heart attack, what's in the artery, what's in the clog, where does that leave Americans? We're gone. We're gone. Even he doesn't know what's doing it. What's in a clog, if you're wondering, 85% of it is the adulterated parent omega-6, just what I told you, from the cooking oil. That's what's in the clog. So stop eating that stuff. Put in the right oils. Put in the PEOs. I don't know how you get a heart attack.
You know,
that's simple, Daniel.
Yeah,
it's simple.
Right. I was going to bring something up that you mentioned earlier about coconut oil. And it was about 2 years ago, I had a guest on the program who, part of his practice is that he's in dentistry.
Okay.
And he says, here's what you want to do on a daily routine for about 10 to 20 minutes, is that you take coconut oil, You put it in your mouth, you swish it around, all that sort of a thing for about 10 minutes, 20 minutes. And then after that, you spit it out and you rinse your mouth out. And he says this is one of the best ways for actually preventing heart disease, the plaquening, the hardening of the arteries, because think about it. That's where it starts from, is in your mouth with the plaque on your teeth. But what essentially coconut oil does, and he says you can really use any kind of oil, but he says preferably coconut oil, is that it takes all the bacteria and everything, it just kind of attracts it like a magnet, it sticks to it, you spit it out, and you're done with it. And he says you can eliminate a lot of sicknesses just by doing this one thing. What are your thoughts on something like that?
Two comments. He's absolutely right on the topical, because coconut oil is very antibacterial and antimicrobial. Mm-hmm. So that's excellent. And I know what he's talking about with plaque from the mouth can get into the bloodstream, and they're making more out of that than really happens unless you're a diabetic. You don't have too much of that to worry about. It's not going to stop you from getting a heart attack. You need to have the parent essential oils. Coconut's 93% saturated fat. It's a great oil. It's a very good, oil to cook in because it has a high smoke point, so you're not going to get the trans fats. But it's not going to prevent you from a heart attack. It's very, very good in the mouth. You only need a minute or two. You don't need 10 or 20. Yeah. Just put it on there. You're done. Just don't spit it out like he said. You could swallow it, too. It's not going to hurt you at all. Swallow the stuff. The oil is very, very good, and actually in my formulas I recommend, excuse me, I tell companies to use coconut oil because it protects the parent essential oils. So the saturated fats protect the polyunsaturated ones that parent omega-6 and parent omega-3 are. So it's very, very good, but you still have to take the parents. That will not stop heart attacks. Mm-hmm. But you're absolutely right.
Now, tell us what you do about your day as you get started. How do you usually start your day? What do you eat? What do you usually like to do?
Yeah, good question, because everybody typically asks me that. Morning coffee, 3 supplements I take. The parent essential oils, supplement of minerals. There's about 8 of them. Why minerals? Because they're not in the soil. The way plants get minerals are organic, cow manure, horse manure, that sort of thing. Nature's very smart. From the animal, it excretes what the human needs. So it goes into the plant. We don't get the minerals from the plant. We get the mineral from the animal that ate the plant. So that's why the meat has all the minerals in it. If they're in the soil, but because they have nitrogen-based fertilizers, the plant looks great, doesn't have the minerals. Minerals are coenzymes, so if you don't have the minerals, your vitamins don't work. And chemical reactions can go down by as much as a factor of 1,000,000 times. So minerals are critical. They're also respiratory enzymes in the mitochondria with the oxygen transfer. And you mentioned The Hidden Story of Cancer. That whole book was about Nobel Prize winner Otto Warburg, MD, PhD, showing lack of cellular oxygen by about 35% is the cause of cancer. My biggest discovery is the parent omega-6 containing oils are the oxygenators. So you put that in, the lack of oxygen is solved. I don't know how anybody would get cancer. That's why people that follow my recommendations don't get it. It's extremely rare. I mean, I probably had 3 people out of 10,000 that have, and there's reasons why they got it. They had very specific conditions. It's incredible. So these oils are major oxygenators. So I take the oils, I take the minerals, and what's the next thing? We're eating a lot of junk you don't want. So you need a detoxifier. Best daily detoxifier on the planet, as far as I'm concerned, is Essetial. That was a Canadian-Indian cancer remedy. It is the best optimizer blood purifier I've ever seen. The only modification I've made to the original recipe is I've added cat's claw, which is a South American herb, which is the best upper respiratory assister I've ever seen. So when people have asthma, any kind of COPD, and start taking this formulation by itself, phenomenal results. And because it's a blood purifier, it's historically used in cancer to help with minimizing the risk of metastasis, right? That's the big issue with cancer. If it stays local, the odds you have a problem are next to 0, a couple percent. The whole problem is the metastasis. So those are the 3 things I have. I never eat food for breakfast. I'm not hungry.
Mm.
These oils fulfill your appetite. Notice I don't say suppress it. You don't need anything suppressed. You have a natural appetite. So that fulfills it. And another big discovery in the book was written specifically for existing patients that have diabetes and for people that don't want to become diabetic. The sweet tooth at night. What the heck do you do? Because, people are tired from working. You sit in front of the TV. You're going to sit in front of the thing. You're going to eat. Protein fruit smoothie is the best thing in the world. So I like an all-natural protein powder, and at PEO Solution, they can look that up too and see it. And you add fruit. So it's not dried fruit, not juice. Those are very high in sugar. You don't want that. You'll get fat. Regular fruit, I've discovered, and I sent this off to the lab, has a quarter to a half of the glycemic load that you would expect, meaning when you calculate how much glucose is in an apple or a peach or a strawberry, and you figure out how many ounces somebody ate, you'd expect their blood sugar to rise a certain amount. It rose by a quarter of it. I fell off my chair because my wife is type 1 diabetic. I did the test the next day, said this can't be. Where the hell did it go? Quite honestly. I mean, you're ingesting it. Where did it go? Did it again, same answer. Then I sent it off to the lab for analysis, and the analysis is in the book. Bottom line is there's many other glucose transports besides GLUT4, which is the one for blood glucose, and insulin. So that's the one that makes you fat. That's the one that keeps your blood sugar. But there's about 10 others. So this is the biggest discovery in the world for a diabetic is two things, the oils and the protein powder fruit smoothie. And again, I like grass-fed cows and non-denatured protein. And it is, it's a low-temperature process, so it's excellent. It's very, very bioavailable. Even if you're a vegetarian and you want some of this, it is superb. It'll make sure you don't have any of the deficiencies that a lot of vegetarians get. But it fulfills the sweet tooth because you can put up to as much fruit as you want in there, even 10 ounces. So when you make this with the liquid, and I freeze the fruit, Daniel, so it's like an ice cube made of a cantaloupe. You don't have to put any ice in it. You just put water, scoop of the protein powder, and as much of the fruit as you want, grind it up. It's like a milkshake. It's creamy. The protein powder makes it creamy instead of icy. That can be your meal, or that's a snack. Let me tell you, you are so stuffed, you can't eat a pizza. You can't eat a piece of pie. You can't eat a banana split. You don't want it because you're stuffed physically with the stomach with all the volume, and the sweet tooth is fulfilled in the brain. And the blood glucose doesn't go up that much. So it is the best thing in the world for a diabetic on a pound-for-pound basis compared to ice cream or cake or anything else, a quarter to a half as much of the blood sugar rise. It's worth the book just for that.
When you talk about that, too, the fruit, and you even say that you put, some greens in your smoothies.
I just put fruit. I don't do any greens. I'm just a fruit. I'm not
I
big
guess
on
I misread that in your
up.
book then. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm not big on grinding stuff up. My comment is, why aren't you eating it with your teeth?
Right. But anyway, that being said, the fact is that I had realized, in my experience, that as you do these things, that your sweet tooth, your craving, or your propensity to be attracted toward that stuff just kind of falls away. You just don't feel like you want it anymore. And I found that kind of interesting because it almost feels like a psychological effect. Sort of.
It's not psychological
I just don't really want that cookie right now. I know it's physiological, but you feel like it's also in your thinking too, because a lot of times we're compelled by our cravings, by our thoughts.
You're
just
right
kind of
there.
Get louder and louder and louder until you get that thing that you're looking for. But in this case here, you almost feel like somehow a switch flicked, and you sort of have more control over that decision process.
You're absolutely right. This will take care of the physiologic issues between the oils and the smoothie with the fruit. Now and then, just because it's easy, I want to reward myself. I'll do the same thing. I'm getting some, banana jelly beans or something, and do it. Because the key is you don't do it all the time,
right,
and you don't have that craving all the time. If you have that once every 2 weeks, big deal. And that's all you should have it. That's the difference. You're not a slave to food, and you will not want to be eating 4 to 6 times a day. Let me make this really clear. We're not human billy goats. The reason the nutritionists came up with this nonsense, which is going to put you on the path of diabetes, by the way, because the pancreas is designed to produce insulin twice a day. So anybody eating more than 3 times a day, get a dartboard, get a picture of yourself, put your picture on the bullseye, and write diabetic time bomb, because in 10 years you'll go, I should have listened to this guy I heard. Diabetic time bomb doing that. You're going to kill your pancreas. The reason is the high-carb diet makes you eat, crave more food. That's all the insulin response, and I talk a lot about that. You shouldn't be wanting to eat all the time, period.
Mm-hmm.
You just shouldn't. And just because there's infinite food doesn't mean you have to eat it. I've got 2 cats. They always have food. Perfect weight. They do no exercise. 0. One cat's so lazy, he won't even go outside unless the door is fully open for him. He won't even use his paw to open the door. He sits and meows, open the darn thing. I'm not using any energy to open this door. I mean, it's incredible. Perfect size. We have another cat. She's very athletic. Not that she does anything. She just has a lot of muscle to her. They don't gain an ounce, neither one of them. So this whole nonsense with you have to exercise all the time, no, you only need to exercise all the time because you're eating the wrong food, making you fat. What if I don't eat that? Then I don't need to exercise. There was a great book in 1950 by Dr. Solomon, cardiologist, called The Exercise Myth. And Random House published it, I was shocked. I got a copy of it. It's out of print. You're not going to be able to find a used one maybe. The Exercise Myth. And he correlated the more people exercised, the quicker they died, the more heart attacks. It was unbelievable, especially with the long-distance runners. The more they ran, the worse they were. So it's the opposite of what you think. His comment was, and the quote was, unless you're a sloth that never leaves the couch, your risk of a heart attack has not gone up.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to do anything. It's nonsense. It's all made up because of wrong dietary information. So again, I hope people will check out PEO Solution. It's PEO-solution.com, and demand science from the newspaper, from the magazine, from who you're listening to before you do anything. Even when I lecture the doctors, I say you're not getting any supplements. You're getting a book first, and you're going to read. PEO Solution is 500 pages, by the way. Now, it's big print. It's easy to read. It's 500 pages. And you know how many recipes are in there? 0. Not one.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of science, and the doctors typically read it twice. And then they can talk supplements if they think they need it after reading that. And, of course, they all do. They get their patients on it immediately. But I'm the antithesis of the person in the nutritional field. They just say, take this. Why? Because I said so. Mm-hmm. Means you're not taking anything until you read this book. And we put your name in a thing, and if you haven't read the book, you're not getting anything. I don't want people doing things because they're Brian followers or anybody's follower. I want people doing something because I understand it. Me talking about it and you listening, the material's not yours. You need to read it and understand it. And if you're not willing to take 8 hours or 10 hours for your health, nothing I can do with you. If you think watching Dancing with the Stars is more important with your health, and if you're over 21, that's fine. Have a nice life. I could care less.
Mm-hmm.
Your choice. You're an adult. You're not going to have a nice life, but that's not my call. You've already made it. I mean, that's pretty much where I am. My life is spent giving physicians the best medical science in the world. Mm-hmm. All I can do is publish it, get it out there, and if you're too lazy to make use of it, there's nothing I can do. Nothing I can do. It's like you run your car. Most people don't understand how the car works. Well, if you don't change your oil, that engine's gone. These oils are the same thing. If you don't get the right oil in every cell, you're gone too. And what does gone mean? Cancer, heart disease, diabetes, and exhaustion. What else is there? I mean, those are it. Almost anybody you see, they're exhausted all the time. Typically, cancer is in their family. Because here's the stats on cancer, just because we were talking about it before. 53% of men get cancer. No, it's 53% of women and 70% of men. 70% of men get cancer. Prostate cancer through the roof. So the average person, Daniel, gets cancer. There's nothing special about you. You're average. You're average as heck. And the treatments are awful. They've got nothing. They've got delusion. They look at 5 years because, and this just came out too recently, radiation chemotherapy kill off the normal cells, and what you're left with is highly virulent cancer cells. So 5 years down the road, when that cancer comes back, guess what? You're pretty much dead.
Mm-hmm.
You're really dead. The only people that don't survive it, unless they make a change and get these oils in them to stop the lack of oxygenation or stop eating any bad fats and just get organic oils, you're going to have cancer again. There's no way around it because there's only one prime cause. So that's the prime cause of cancer. That was Otto Warburg, Nobel Prize winner, MD, PhD, greatest physiologist of the 20th century. So that's called the hidden story of cancer. They can look at that in my work too.
PEO Solution is the title of the book, and
yeah,
our guest today.
There's a hyphen for the web. We had to put a hyphen in.
Okay, right.
Yeah, PEO stands for Professional Employment Organization. So if you type that in, that may come up. But if you do PEO Solution, book, that'll probably come up fast. So if you get this other stuff, it's nothing to do with this.
Well, Professor Brian Peskin, thank you so much for being on the program. It's always a pleasure to hear you gunning forth and being sure that people, wake up. Otherwise, live with, just as you said, the results that you have right now.
It's my pleasure. I'm trying like the Dickens, and the physicians that consult with me are trying like the Dickens. So we're doing our job.
Well, thanks again for being on the program today.
Good talking with you, Daniel.
You
Bye-bye.
bet. We also encourage you to visit us at Beyond50Radio.com. That is the number 50. We have more information about the PEO Solution there as well. Thanks again for joining us. I'm Daniel Davis, and remember, live your day past halfway.